Yo, what's up everyone? This is Jon Tho here, and welcome to my masterclass for the DNB Academy 174 production marathon. Before you get started, just make sure you check out their website as they are running a big sale to celebrate the Drum and Bass Day. So big opportunities, make sure you grab the links below and go check them out. So for this occasion, I decided to bring you a very and highly requested topic, which is drums. Since we're talking about drum and bass, drums are a very big important element on our music. So I decided to show you a couple of techniques that I like to use a lot on my productions, basically to get a proper drum break, funk break sound, using not only samples, but also some other techniques, including synths and machines like Addictive Drums and Superior Drummer. So this will be a showcase of techniques, and it's just sort of a workflow for you to get your drums rolling, and just an hybrid combination between old techniques and new techniques. So let's get started with it. So as you can see here, I've got a blank project, which only include my sidechain triggers. That's quite of another old topic, but it's nothing too fancy here, just a few triggers that will be later on routed to our compressors on our individual groups. We won't need that for now. We will pretty much just need to sort out our drum programming and all of that. So let's just start by choosing a drum break that has at least the groove and the sort of vibe that we're looking for. So I've got like a pack here which contains a lot of breaks, like classic DNB breaks. Like, this is a very old pack, and till this day a lot of producers still use it. So I found it pretty interesting to show you at least some of these samples. This is, by the way, this Music Radar DNB break samples. Just, it was an old magazine. They used to release samples in CDs and all that. So all of these breaks are like based on the drum and bass community. They were all pretty much given access to by the producers who made them and used them back in the day. So let's find something. This is a process that most of us producers are sort of used to. Just a arrow down click, browsing samples. So I was looking for something a bit funkier. Like this, for example. Let's drop this into our sequencer. Okay. Just narrow this down a little bit. First of all, let's check for any inconsistencies here on the transients. Sometimes that might be a couple hits here and there. There are a bit off grid, and we want to make sure that everything is on the right spot before starting the other processes. So it's quite a simple thing to do now. It's just, with Ableton at least, it's really simple. Just click on the transient generated by the DAW and just snap it to the grid. Sometimes this can be a bit tricky, like this for instance. You see here the transient is not this one here specifically. So you need to pay attention to that. And usually it's visible, but sometimes it can be good because it can create a sort of swing and groove to it. I'm not saying that this is a bad thing, but yeah, let's check it. Okay, nice. So this is pretty much the groove, and this will be the foundation for our track, our drums, I mean. So what we'll need to do now is sort of start layering it with other elements. And let's start off by writing and designing a drum break on Addictive Drums. Let's look for it. Addictive Drums 2. And this will be the first process that we're gonna do. But as soon as we find some at least a couple of good sounds inside of Addictive Drums, we're gonna program them here into, so they just play the same sort of groove that our drum break plays. And then we're gonna do a multi-output of every single element from our mixer here on Addictive Drums to our individual audio channels here on Ableton. That way we will be able to mangle and to work better on each individual sound. So first things first, we're gonna start our drum break. So I usually like to keep this setting here, this button here on, so that way if you play a note, you can hear what's being played, which is kind of cool for this specific matter. So we found our snare. Our kick must be around here. All right. And we got our kick. We got our main in the middle. So we're pretty much gonna do the pattern that we see on top. Okay, so this is what we got. Really standard drum pattern. And what we gotta do now is just fill it with a couple of hats. I forgot to mention, but as you can see, I'm using the default 82 dry room preset that comes in with Addictive Drums. But obviously later on we're gonna change the samples and tweak them to our liking. But for the time being, this is what we need to sort of get our loop going. Just put straight beats. We notice that we've got like a lot of ghost snares here, so we're also gonna try to get them here. We'll take care of the velocity later. Right. Must be something like this. Sorry, let me delete this one here. I think we got just one here. Let's duplicate this. Not sure if we got one. Yeah, it's just hats here that do these first ghost hits around here. All right, now let's take care of the velocity here so we can get better groove. Something like this might do the job. All right. So now let's tweak these sounds a little bit. First of all, we're just gonna add in an utility to boost up the volume, because as you can see, this will be pretty much pointless later on, because we're gonna process each individual mixer channel on our DAW instead of addictive drums. But for now, just to keep things a bit more interesting, and that way we'll be able to sort of listen on top of the break. Okay, let's go piece by piece. For those who are not familiar with addictive drums, this is it's sort of a simple plugin to work with. Down here we got a mixer, which, as you can see, it just has each individual kit piece assigned to it. And here you can mix your drum break individually as well. And here you got your microphones, which are the overhead here. You got the room microphone here, and you got your drum bus sort of thing going on here. Then you also got your FX channels. You've got the send effects, and you got FX1, FX2, which I usually turn off because I like, as I said, we're gonna do that later on the process. So for now, what we're trying to achieve is just get a sort of a better tone for our snare and our kick drum. So as you can see, if we click on top of the kit pieces here, which are assigned to the mixer, let's kick specifically on the kick drum here. We've got all these parameters that we can mess around with. This one is a very important one, actually, which is turned off, which is the response. We want our kick drum to hit exactly the same time every time it's triggered. So we need to click on the no altering samples button here, which is no alts. Just make sure that we get this pretty much on every kit piece for this specific matter. If you want to write your drums for, let's say, a guitar-based song, just don't do this, but for this case, that's exactly what we want. So okay, moving on. I'm just turning off all the effects on the kick drum. As I said, we're gonna process them later. Just trying to, let's find a better sample. I like this better. Then here, this is part where you can choose where you're gonna mic your kick drum. As you can see here, we got one mic closer to the bitter of the kick pedal, and the other one it's placed on the front. So if you want to get a more clicky and more transient-ish kind of sound, you go for the bitter microphone. But if you want something a bit boomier and more roomy and at fuller at least, you go to the front. So as you can hear, you might notice this more in different specific samples than others. So now we've got our volume envelope, in which we're just pretty much shaping our kick. Okay, moving on to our snare. Let's also delete all of these effects. Obviously, if you start your drums by the initial preset, it's just we won't have to do this, but we're just taking advantage of the fact that we already got a couple of pieces here and there with everything turned on, so we're just saving a bit of time. Now the snare, I want something a bit tighter. Like, I love this Superphonic 402 by Ludwig. It's one of my favorite snares here on Addicted Drums. You can pitch it a little bit. Same thing goes to the no alts. I fine for now. Our hats as well. Let's cut a bit more of those mids. Sorry. Okay, nice. Then here it's we already got pretty much the basic foundation for our break. We can definitely add a couple more things here before moving on, actually. So let's just layer it with a bit more hats, even on top of the snare. But this one will make it a bit lighter. Just make this a bit more roller. I like sometimes to keep like a big open hat just on the snares. Oh, oopsie daisy. I just meant to duplicate this one here. See. Okay, let's just hear a little bit of our original drum break. Okay. Sounding pretty cool. So, okay, now it's time to move on to the next step, which is pretty much creating a group with each individual mixer channel assigned to one channel on Ableton, which will allow us to develop our drum break even further. So I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. So first things first, we're going to name this one Addictive VST. So this will be just the VST part if we want to edit something inside the box, because otherwise we're going to have our channels here. So let's just start by pressing Ctrl T. Like we can press it like 7 times. 6, we will need. These are enough for now. Let's color them red, for instance, and group them. Okay, Addictive. Let's put like 80 out. Okay, so first thing that we need to do, it's go to our Addictive Drums plugin and start by choosing which pieces do we want to put outside of our Addictive Drum. So if you click on this part here on the kick drum, you will see that we've got this master, separate out pre-fader, separate out post-fader, and this one here. So what we're going to do here is click on the separate out post-fader. So now we got this channel here. We need to choose Addictive VST. And now we've got our kick here. Now just need to put it in. And as you can see, now we just getting the signal from our kick drum exactly how it's coming out from Addictive Drums. One thing that I can try here Let's put the pre-fader plus master, which doesn't help, but usually I'll go with the post fader if you want these effects to also come out of the Addicted Drums instance, or if you just want everything blank as it is. Let's go with the post fader because we already made some changes here and there, so it's fine. So we got our kick. Now let's do the same thing for our snare.
Hi, I'm Icicle and welcome to my studio. I'm a drum and bass producer from Holland, if you didn't know. I used to live in England for a long time, and together with Drum and Bass Academy I have made a course describing my entire process. It's an Ableton course over 4 hours long in which I go through drum design, drum programming, sound design, bass lines, composition and arrangement, some advanced sound design techniques as well, and mastering. Included are the project files as well, samples, presets, everything, so you can properly follow along with me and get to the same result as myself. So I hope you enjoy.
We can actually do from all of them now. We might leave these ones for now. Then we also want our microphones. And we want to turn down the master because we only want those pieces. So now let's name this one kick. Let's go with snare. Let's do exactly the same thing. Just choose Addictive VST, which is our source. Then snare Addictive Drums and make this channel in. As you can see, and here we've got both of them playing properly now. And obviously you might be thinking, oh, this isn't as loud as it was before. And that's because we are not listening to all the processing and the effects we got here on our sound effects and on the master actually, and even the overheads and the room microphones, they do give the drums a lot of volume and body, so it's normal for you to be wondering that. But it's also normal because what we were getting here, we are just getting like the raw sound of the snare and the kick drum. So and that's actually awesome for us because we can apply like all of our favorite VSTs and even native plugins from Ableton onto the processing of each channel, which is awesome. So let's keep on. Oh, sorry. Let's keep on with our group assignments here. Addicted drums, hats. You're like in, and note that and obviously all of these individual channels are being assigned to this group for as their output. So anything we add here, let's just do an example, which I can already just like put a camel fat, for instance, on our Addictive Drums output. And this starts this, and as you can see now we're getting like the real thing in terms of volume and all that. So let's just delete this for now. It's just for you to not to be like, so you just made everything sound worse by doing this, and that's not the point. So okay, moving on. Let's also do one of these for our microphones. So let's click OE for the OH for the overhead. So let's do exactly the same thing. This part is a bit boring, but needs to be done. See, we've got our microphone here. Plus our individual kit pieces. Great. Let's move on to our room microphone. These are actually not mandatory, you might not want to process these, but I'm gonna show you a reason on why you should actually do this, because you can get a lot out of it. Now we get our room microphone, which, as the name says, it's very roomy. It's a bit more reverbish than the last one. So okay, now on Addictive Drums, we do got our mediocre still drum break, but okay, now it's time to start processing it. And after the processing, we're gonna tweak once again those individual kit pieces. This is pretty much like an endless tweaking war between you and your computer, but it is what it is. Us producers know the drill. So okay, let's do it. Let's start by adding a bit of saturation to our Addictive Drums out buzz here. So for that, I'm gonna use FabFilter Saturn, which is probably my favorite saturator, and I'm gonna use it as a clean tape mode here. I'm not gonna do any multi-banding business here, just straightforward overall. Let's not go too bonkers with it, we just want a bit of warmth. As you can see, we still have a lot of volume that we can definitely take advantage of. Like that, we got this big headroom ahead of us. Nice. Now let's put in an EQ. Just gonna do a low cut here, because we might have some frequencies that we don't want, specifically below the 60-50 Hz area. Our kick can do well without these frequencies here. Let's boost a little bit of the tops and remove some of the mud. For now, I'm gonna mute like the overhead, which will have a completely different processing than the rest of the elements, and I'm gonna leave that one blank for now. I'm gonna mute them actually. We're just gonna focus on making these actual three sounds sound good. And first of all, just something that is bothering me, just this hi-hat. I need to fix a little bit of the volume envelope here. Just a bit too long for my taste. Something just like this, a bit higher pitched. Putting everything balanced here. Okay, fine. So now let's add isotope trash to after our EQ. So we're gonna distort it a bit more, as you can see. So we can do both things here. We can actually do a bit of tape saturation, which I'm a big fan of, especially this isotopes one. Let's turn the volume of our heads a little bit lower. Better now. And now we're gonna use a camel fat just to clip. Obviously go to clear preset here. Turn on the distortion just by the sake of it, but we just want this as pretty much as a default setting, just to use it as a limiter. Let me just check one thing here. It's fine. So okay, let's start now. Now that we did sort of a default processing of our drum bus here, we obviously need to compress it a little bit, but it's still early stage for that, in my opinion. So we're gonna go kit by piece here, especially on the kick, snare, and hi-hat, and do a bit of processing on them to make them sound better. So okay, now let's use a wave shaper. I like to use this image line one from Fruity Loops. It's pretty useful. Just pretty much clipping a bit of these sounds. That's what I'm gonna do for the snare as well. As you can hear, I'm gonna show you the spectrum. Got a pretty high accentuation here on the snare, and the kick is not that loud, so we need to fix that. Let's also clip our hats a little bit. Okay, so we did this, the sort of solo processing, and this was pretty much just to get the volume a little bit higher. And as you can hear now that we're gonna play this with our break, back then there was you couldn't barely listen to our drums when we played it on top of the break, and now this is what we get. Remove our drums, wait for now. Let's hear our overhead now. Okay, let's go back to our Addicted Drums VST so we can tweak this overhead a little bit. And also might be a bit of panning going on here. Is this dead center? Dead center. All right, let's check our overhead. Let's make it less wide. I want the panning at 0, but good. Tape and shape. Now we've got all these parameters here, which you might be familiar with: compression, distortion, EQing, tape and shape. So this is nothing out of the ordinary for most of you. So what I'm gonna do is try to compress this even a little bit more than it is now, make it more snappy. Sounding good. I don't want this amount of distortion in it. That's fine. Set it to dry. Let's hear with the all break. Yeah, I know what we need to do. Let's try to make this snare. It's a bit too harsh here. Starting to clip. Just doing a notch. If we do this sort of notch on top of them, on top of this higher harmonic of our snare, we start to control a bit of the saturation that was happening on that spot. Yeah. Now let's sort of tweak our snare a little bit more now that we got all this, because as I told you before, this is a sort of it's a really relentless war between you and all of these sounds, trying to tweak everything and make them sound perfect. And I understand that, but sometimes you gotta give up in a good sense, and just stick to what you have. But once again, let's just try to make this a little bit tighter. We can later on fix this pitch. Okay, it's not bad. So what we kind of miss on this snare is a bit of brightness on the tops. So a technique that I use sometimes is by using this plugin called Denise Noise 2, which is sort of a noise trigger plugin, which basically puts a layer of noise on top of wherever you just drag it into. So let's mute our solo, our snare. We just chose white noise. Now we need to properly find the settings. This rise and fall sort of, it's like the attack and the release sort of thing, as you can see. Let's make an EQ to cut any unwanted low end. We can switch the type of noise, as you can see here. But we were actually looking for a white noise, so that's not what I meant. It's here. Let's listen. Snare is definitely better. What I need to do now is just slap in a compressor. I like to use this glue compressor from Ableton. So it's just turning out a soft clip. What I'm trying to achieve is something like a really subtle sort of a compression. So we're not going bunkers with it. Like on the 5 on the gain reduction section here, not much more than that. you can hear, there's like barely, just cleaning up the sound and tightening it up a little bit. And we can actually make this snare a little bit shorter here. Okay, now let's go back to our kick drum because it's sort of annoying me the way it's sounding. We need to make this a little bit shorter, obviously. And probably change the sample. Like it. Let's do a bit of VQing. Because we also probably gonna work a bit and add some transient layers later on the stage. But for now, I think with a bit of EQing here and there, we can get our sounds pretty crystal clear. Oopsie daisy. Trying to get this snappy transient. And also here, let's do a bit of EQ. It's too much mids, I don't want. Let's hear it with our break. And now let's just EQ our break also a little bit, because as I told you before, we're going to use this as a layer as well. Something like this. And what I can actually do is go to the audio editing section here on Ableton and make the sound a bit more short and tight. So we go to the transient section here and we select polar here, and then we just work around the amount of, as you can hear, the difference is big. It's pretty much this works as a transient shaper, designer, whatever you want to call it. So what we're doing is just pretty much shortening up our transient and our release, mostly our release time. And also by doing that, it creates a sort of pinch on the transient. So okay, nice. We're getting there. We already did a bit of processing on each individual element, like this one here, like the overhead. now let's take care of our room, which is also really important to give us the sort of acoustic and funky vibe of our drums. Otherwise, they will sound too dull. Not that I'm not happy with them. I'm actually quite happy with them. How they sound, like just the break itself, but like we don't even need to put the layer in to make this sound good, in my opinion. Obviously, this break gives it a bit more funk. Okay, now let's hear it with our room microphone. Okay, let's start by EQing it. No more low end on these mics. Okay, now let's go back to our addictive drums and see which settings we got here on our room microphone. We have pretty harsh compression, as you can see here. Yeah, some EQ to remove the mud. And here we got your distance, and this will also affect and give you some like track delay sort of effect. If you listen to the whole thing, like, because this is the distance between the drum kit and the microphone. So obviously, if it's too far away from the kit, it will sound off. That will be a sort of a delay in terms of sound regarding like all the reverberation and all that. So try to keep this closer as possible if you don't want to have that sort of effect. We can still like this kick. Let me check one thing. Think of this, it's just sort of a, you know what I mean, that sort of tail that's going on the kick. It's a bit weird. So now that we don't actually need this utility on our addictive drums VST, because we're not even using it, because as you can see here, there's not a single sound's been routed to this channel. So everything from addictive drums VST has been routed out to our addictive drums out. So this is pretty much just the MIDI and the VST itself. So what I'm gonna do here on the room reverb, I'm just gonna put Valhalla Room and be very, very subtle. Try not to go bunkers with it. Let's choose something like the bright room. Now let me check one thing on the snare. Okay, nice. So we pretty much got to a point where our drum break is sounding really, really good. But it feels like I need to kind of layer it, especially the kick and the snare, to make everything more precise and more effective on the mix. I think we should do individual transients and layers for our kick drum and our snare, which putting it in other words would be like we're making the foundation and using these sounds that we did as a layer. So I think it's better to get into it so you guys understand what I mean. So I'm gonna create a MIDI track here, and I'm gonna group these two into one, and I'm gonna call this the kick because this will be our AD layer, and we're gonna do a transient now. So everything plays as it was before because this addictive drum layer comes from exactly the same spot. This goes to addictive drums out, so there's nothing going on here bad. So let's just assign this to addictive drums out. Oh no, we actually don't need to. We got no output because there's nothing in it still. So let's use our bad boy buddy Serum. And what we're gonna do is sort of create a kick to layer it on top of our kick. So for that, we're gonna draw. There's plenty of different ways of doing this regarding the groups and regarding like the organization itself of the project, but I like to do it this way because everything is organized my way, and as far as I'm concerned, it is pretty fast and it's pretty intuitive to work with. So okay, let's create a MIDI track here, and now let's just pretty much, oh, it's too loud. Let's just put this on. Sorry. Not drum and bass spot, as my friends call it. Okay, now let's start the design of our kick drum. So it's gonna be nice for people who are not that familiar with drums design. So I'm gonna try to be clear regarding this because this is really important for your own creations. So let's use you pretty much only need one envelope for this and one oscillator. I mean like 3 envelopes and 1 oscillator. You can also do this technique with 2 oscillators, but I like this. I like it this way for this purpose. If you want to make like the whole kick with Serum, I would recommend you to do some techniques with 2 oscillators so you can get the most out of it. But if you want to use it as a transient layer for this acoustic kick, this is more than enough. So okay, we've got our oscillator A, and we're gonna choose basic shapes and go to a sine wave because that's what we want, a sine wave. Here in the parameters, it's really important for you to check them carefully, I mean. And there are a couple of rules that you should follow. I hate to say this, but I'm not a big fan of like following the rules when it comes to music, because sometimes you get the best results when you try to like skip the rules. But these are really important. On your phase button here, you should always put like 90 or 180 degrees. And that's due to the fact that sine waves, the spot, as you can see here, when we move our phase knob, this is pretty much the spot where our sample or our wavetable will start whenever we press a button, a key in this case. So the most effective spots for this are actually the 90 and the 180 degrees because they do have more of a clickiness to it. So I'm gonna give you an example. Like, let me just put it 1 octave up, or like, try to listen to it, like. And one other thing is the random phase. We need to put it all the way down because we want consistency. So we want the phase to be exactly the same every time. Look at the difference. As you can hear, and you can actually sort of see it, because whenever I play this, look at the spectrum. And I didn't even put the attack all the way down. As you can hear, they are different. There's like different nuances to it, especially regarding the clickiness of the sine wave. So that's why I always tend to do this. So put your phase knob on the 90, random phase all the way down, and here, yeah, here is just like really basic sound design technique. So let's use on Serum, you can use these as envelopes only, but on this LFO area here, you can actually use them as envelopes just by clicking here. Instead of trigger mode, which is the classic LFO mode, you got your envelope and they work as an envelope. So that's cool. So let's just assign this to the volume. First, we're going to create the shape of our kick. So for that, I'm gonna draw like a really standard as well sort of shape for a kick drum, which is something like this. I'm gonna increase the rate to 8 because I like it better this way. So we already have like that sort of kick drum feeling to it. We just need to turn this down a couple of octaves. Okay, I think this is good enough for it. We do have our body of our kick drum, which we can make it way fatter if you want, and longer, shorter, depending. Even like something like this, if you want to make like that really shorty trancy kick, it's up to you. I just want to go with something like this. I think this is good enough for this tune. And now let's move on to our second envelope, which will work as our pitch envelope. So we're gonna do a simple drawing just like this on our envelope and assign this to the course. And for those who don't know, there's a shortcut to turn so this way you can easily turn the direction of your envelope faster. So for those who don't know, here we got your LFO2 assigned to the course pitch, and here we got your type, and which got your polar and bipolar. And you can easily switch those here, but you don't really need to come here to the matrix to do this. So you just press your Alt and Shift button on top of the course, the parameter that you assigned your LFO to, and left click on it, and it's turned into polar. So now we need to find a nice spot. As you could hear, like the kick was like this before. Now we're just doing the pitch envelope on it. This will serve as the character of our kick, sort of. Yeah, we want something a bit more like this, but not so much. Then we can obviously tune it a little better. I'm just tweaking this main envelope thing a little bit, so we want a transit, but not so much, not that clicky, if you know what I mean. Okay, you might notice that the kick it's sounding a bit loud already, but don't forget that our group is already being assigned to the kick group, which is also assigned to Addictive Drums Out, which already has a lot of processing, so it's normal for this kick to sound a bit better as it is now than if you would process, like, do this from scratch outside of the drum bus. We can actually call this drum bus because that's what it is at this point. Okay, now let's add a third envelope. This one will act, this will be like a really short one and fast one. And we also assign it to the chorus, but we're gonna make this like really high on the pitch. This way we can add this click to our kick. Look. So this way our kick sounds a bit more complex and will sit better on the mix. Now we need to tweak some stuff here as well, just to make this a little bit bigger. Okay. It's not bad like this for now. Let's hear it with our overall drums, just to... So now we're pretty much listening to our kick. So let's process this a little bit with the wave shaper, just to clip the sound a little bit, make it louder. Okay, now that we got our really cool kick drum, that will definitely cut through the mix way better than the muddier, more acoustic-ish sort of kick drum that we had before. I'm gonna do a bit of design on this, like volume envelope design here on our kick drum. So basically what we don't want is our two transients to be merged and to be playing on top of each other. So what we're gonna do is just give this a little bit of attack. As you can hear, this way our real, like, digital, freshly made kick will stand out, because otherwise they will just mess up with each other. As you can hear, our kick drum is way fat now. Way fatter. So one little detail that I forgot, it's to add this sort of noise layer to our kick that will help us making it sound a bit more natural on the long run. Because when you listen to it the first time it's okay, but like repetitively listening to this digital kick, it just... So I'm gonna do this other envelope and assign this to our noise, and we're gonna use like sort of like white noise. It's fine. You can hear like something really subtle. See, just a tiny little noisy thing on top of it just made it immediately sound better in terms of placement. Okay, now that we did this for our kick drum, I actually muted the addictive drum layer. So let's go back to our addictive VST just to remove a bit of this tail. And also tune this a little bit better. I like it here. Compress this a little bit. Okay, nice. Really happy with, oh yeah, this is it. Okay, so now that we did our kick, and as I was saying, I'm really happy with how it's sounding. We're gonna move on to our snare, and pretty much we're gonna do exactly the same thing that we did for our kick drum. Even though our snare sounded better than the kick drum, but like, you're listening to this without the context of the tune. But as soon as you start to mix and start to add elements like bass and synths and all of that on top of these sounds, they are probably not gonna sound this sharp, you know. So that's why I'm carefully crafting these transients and these more clinical spots of the drums that addictive drums and all these breaks don't have. Even though you can apply a lot of different like sampling techniques, I think this way is the most precise way, or at least one of the most precise ways to control and mangle your drums. So okay, let's group our snare as well. And let's call this snare and do exactly the same thing. Addictive drums layer. Now let's create another track here. Oh, I already wrote snare. I'm ahead of the curve, looking for Serum. So we're gonna do exactly the same thing, but for now we're just gonna do this on our main snares. We're gonna neglect the ghost snares for a while because we actually want those snares to sound a bit more breaky, more funky, if you know what I mean. So let's just do this process for our original snare only now. Okay, nice. We got a cheap tune. So, please remind yourselves of what I said before regarding the kick design, because this is pretty much the same thing with a couple different hints and tips here and there. So let's just go for it. Select basic shapes, phase on 90, random phase all the way down. First envelope will be the shape of our snare drum. Let's put this a bit faster, as I previously said. Envelope mode. Something like this is okay for now. Okay, second envelope will be our pitch. It's a bit different regarding the snares, because obviously one thing is a kick, the other thing is a snare. Even though this looks way too similar, it's different. Okay, as you can hear, probably this is a bit too long. Let me check on the spectrum. Yeah, it's pretty much what we want. It's just this big belly. It was too long. simply that. Another pitch. Just finding the spot. Once again, it's all up to that. It's all about that, I mean. Now we got more of a transient going on. But I don't want only the transient. I also want to add a bit of noise layer to it. And for that, I'm just gonna group our Serum, our transient. I'm gonna call this, oh, sorry, I press Control T. I'm gonna call this transient. And now I'm gonna add another chain here, and I'm gonna call this one noise. So we're gonna use the Serum again. And we don't need any of this. We just need our noise oscillator and one envelope. It's fine. We need to create a shape for our noise envelope mode, don't forget. So we want something that obviously doesn't interfere with our transient. So we need to have this sort of a ramp up sort of drawing, as you can hear. And now we don't want something too long as well. We want something that quickly fades away, just emulating a snare drum. Now let's choose something like, I got this folder here with pure white noise and pink noise. Let's use the stereo white noise. It's really important for these noises to be stereo. Helps a lot achieving this sound. So with this, it will give me way more room to tweak our snare better. Okay, nice. It was just a matter of, as you can see, just sometimes it's just a couple of clicks. So I'm trying to add this last envelope to our pitch again, to give that snappy, as you could hear the difference. So I got this going on pretty well. And now what I'm gonna do is some glue compression after it. So both these sounds sound exactly like one. Not they are not sounding, but still, since sometimes we get the syndrome, like we the producers know what we did. And sometimes we can't separate things on our ears. Like you're listening to the 3 layers, you're not listening to the whole sound. It's so hard to explain this, but I'm pretty sure this happens with some of you guys that are trying to like listen to one specific sound from another perspective. But since you did everything from scratch yourself, it's hard to separate yourself from that and forget what you did and somehow make that sound like one simple sound. But tell me if it's just me. I don't think it is. But yeah, let's just do some pretty standard compression. Can even go further here. Okay, let's see how it sounds with our addictive drum layer. It sounds bad, obviously, because we need to do exactly what we did with our with our kick drum here. So we need to go to our addictive drums VST and work with the attack and release time of our snare. Pretty sure as soon as I move this, we're gonna start to hear our main transient working. Yeah, right away. This part can be tricky. Get the right spot going. Sometimes I do this manually, actually. Okay. Now let's go to our addictive drum layer, and with this EQ, since we don't need, fooling around with our kick drum, we need to go to our snare drum here, and let's try to remove the main harmonic of the transient. So this way our main transient here would cut through the mix way better. We actually gonna put an EQ on it as well. Not here as well. Boosting our transient a little bit more here on the main harmonic spot. Just like, don't mind, these are minor tweaks on the transient, nothing too big here. Okay, it's not bad. Nice. Just need to listen to it a couple more times. Nice. So I think we're pretty much getting there. I'm enjoying doing this video for you guys, actually, because I think it's something that's so simple to do. I know for a lot of beginners might not be, but it's so simple for you to make your, actually I'm almost in the like 2-hour video, but if you do this once, you can save your template here and always go back to it without just like doing this every time you need it. So it's really helpful, honestly. So let's try to add a bit of more sauce to our MIDI here. Let me add a couple of of right hits here and there. Just don't like it here. The first hit. Choose different hi-hat. And then we're gonna add a tambourine of some sort. This one actually sounds pretty cool. So one last thing here regarding our addictive drums part. For the sake of organization, make sure you do something like this. Like coloring your groups in a way that makes you feel that when you look at it, you know what you're doing. Actually, that helps a lot, and making this the neatest possible is always good. So I'm gonna even change the color for my microphones. This one as well, it goes like this. It's fine. So okay, we forgot to add. Sorry, I didn't forget. I simply just felt like we could do this later. But here on addictive drums, as you can see, there's like a couple of like 3 sections here called flexi. And what this allows us to do, it's pretty much add different sounds out of the ordinary drum kit. Like as you can see here, claps, got like some bells, whatever. So what we're gonna do here is just check. Also, we need to do the same thing that we did for our other elements. So we're just gonna assign this to the post fader. And then we gonna choose not claps. I don't want claps. I want something like a tambourine shaker sort of stuff. So something like this, it's fine. So let's just do the routing first. I'm gonna go here temp. So what we gonna need? It's to pick up the sound from addictive drums, VST, put it in, and check for flexi 1. So yeah, we got our flexi. Now we need to draw something, obviously, on our MIDI. Let's look for it. There we go. This is our flexi. Let's see if we got some signal response. Yes, we do. So now let's make a pattern. This part here is pretty much all up to the velocity that you're gonna draw here on your MIDI to give this a funky natural feeling. Let's hit like this. Nice. Let me just duplicate this so we can like do a small variation here with a couple of toms. We will need to tweak them, obviously, because they have like a really big tail, as you can hear. Let's just go to our Addictive Drums VST, go to the toms. Oh, so we're playing the wrong order. Something like this. Yeah, something like this is more than fine. This is actually the only sound that it's coming only, that's the thing, it's coming only from the overheads and the room because we didn't assign any of the toms. We can do that, but honestly, just by a couple of tom hits, I don't think that's worth a CPU. And so what I'm just gonna do is pretty much make these toms short. Or actually, you know what? Just get rid of these. It was sounding bad. What we're gonna do now is sort of adding some noise hits to layer on top of these drum breaks and drum sounds. I usually do that to create some sort of texture, and that helps a lot to get your drums with a more pristine sort of sound. So let's do it right now. Just gonna open up this and go to Serum. I'm gonna call this noise layer. So what we need is something really splashy. So we want something with a lot of stereo and something, as I said, like really splashy and sort of washed white noise sort of stuff. So it doesn't really matter. I'm gonna play like a full note because we're gonna use some LFOs to work on this. So once again, turn off all the oscillators besides the noise oscillator. Assign this as an LFO now to the volume, so we can actually increase the grid size here and draw ourselves our own little pattern here. So I'm gonna choose the ramp down shape here and do something like this. Now let's just decrease the volume first. and now the sort of shape of them here. Okay, and as you can hear, something that people need to take in consideration a lot, check the spectrum. Look at the amount of artifacts and trash that a simple white noise can make. Look at everything here from the left, and people tend to neglect this a little bit when it comes to this part. And never forget, when you're using noise, check the output on the low end. That can cause you a lot of stress on mix downs if you skip this part, because you're gonna start having interferences with the low end, and you are like, why? I don't have anything under that spectrum. But then you check your noises and everything has a lot of low end, and when all those instances of noise get stacked on top of each other, the low end starts to increase. So let's make like a really, as I said, I want this really splashy. It needs to be barely noticeable. So what I'm gonna do is just EQ this more thoroughly. And we don't want this these heads to be this clicky, so I'm gonna give them some sort of attack. Or actually, sorry, what I'm gonna do is just do everything from scratch here, because I'm not happy with the way I sort of did them at first. Ramp down. God damn it. Here you go. This is it. Just place it a little bit to the right here to create that sort of washed up effect. Oh man, this open hat here is so lame. Which one is it? Should be here. Or tweaking our original drum break a little bit more. So this is pretty much our break without the original drum break. And as you can hear, I'm pretty happy with the result of it, honestly. Like, pretty consistent and clear. Okay, you can do a bit more tweaking and improving some stuff. Obviously, you can, and that's what we're gonna do afterwards. But still, if you do this technique, and you're supposed to layer stuff, so it's really a natural thing as a drum and bass producer, is layering, and the notion of layering and what are the beneficial points of doing that. So it's okay if it sounds better with the layer than without it. I think we did quite much. quite a lot to make it sound this good, honestly. And this tambourine, sorry, I forgot to do this EQ. You can actually do a bit of panning. And now just trying to mix all these things a little bit better. To our snare. Now, what we can do here is actually do a bit of sidechaining, so we can get our snare to cut even better through the mix, and at least our kick. So let's use our transient, our kick transient as a trigger for this one here. High ratio. Fast attack, fast release. As you can hear, we got a... I hate this click that this compressor does, but there's not much we can do. Can give it a bit of look ahead, but still. Let's do the same for the snare. You can actually try to put this inside a drum bus. I like it better this way. Got a bit too much of low end going on here. Let's clean this out. Let me just do something here. These head sounds are pissing me off, man. Still need to figure out the best samples for this one. Okay, nice. So let's just bounce everything into an audio track to see how does it look. So I'm setting this audio track to resampling mode. This way we can actually bounce this out all at once. Oh, actually, I forgot to. We need all of this. So yeah, as you can see here, we pretty much did our own break. Obviously, there are quite a few samples, especially coming here from this DNB break, but it's just a layer. The rest was everything made pretty much from scratch. And as you can see, got pretty decent kick hits. Let's see this thoroughly. Yeah, pretty fat snare. Let me just get this aside. So I like to listen to like the kick and the snare outside of the drum break and see if they would sound good as a sample. Pretty nice snare there. We can like do stuff like this, you know. That's the coolest part of then bouncing this to audio, that you can do stuff like this, which is awesome. Also here, just to take a different listen on it. After working on this drum loop for almost 2 hours, it feels good and fresh to listen. It's another take on it with the rest of the choppy. But there you go. Pretty decent break. You can obviously do all this sort of stuff if you want to use it for a layer or anything else. Just make it a bit shorter. If you do something like this, just make sure you pitch it up with the Beats algorithm on Ableton. I'm just gonna consolidate it, and as you can see, it creates some sort of offset hits here and there. So make sure you pay attention to that, and if you really like how it sounds pitched up and warped up, yeah, make sure you just do that. Otherwise, you'll have a lot of hits and in places like on the break that will make it sound way bad when you're playing it on top of another tune, for instance. So yeah, it's something I always very careful about, is the present placement on your track, because I've been DJing for a lot and I hate when there's a track that got like a couple of 2 hits with a bit too much of swing, and when you play those tracks and you play that track on top of another track and it sounds too much offset, I go crazy with it, and I honestly I don't play that tune. But that's something personal. So I really hope you enjoyed it. I think we pretty much did what I came here for. That was my goal. I really enjoyed this session with you guys. Also, and again, another big up to DNB Academy for having me. And once again, don't forget to check the products and the sales on the DNB Academy website. All the links are on the description below. So yeah, this is it, guys. I really hope you have a good drum and bass day, and I really hope you also take something out of this video and use it on your own productions. So take care. Peace.